We're going to be continuing Unit 29 right now. We're on page 8 of Unit 29 in the Hebrew pages, at least. We've been learning in Unit 29, the learning, as always, is the menucha of Sir Moshe Montefiore and Sir Naim Dangur, and for the refuah of everyone and the hatzlacha of the vaccine, amongst other things. And all those Acheinu Kol Beit Yisrael hanutunim ba'bidud or b'machala, may they all get out of it ASAP, including our family who've been in and out of bidudim on a daily basis the past couple of weeks. This one in, that one out. We're gonna have a fun weekend now. Anyway, le'inyanenu, we're continuing with the issue of Kiddush. We ended off last time saying that Kiddush could be done, that when we say Kiddush, when we say Zachot Shabbat leKadsho, that you have to make Kiddush, Kiddush is not necessarily something that happens once, at one specific moment. It could be a process. The big Kiddush we ended off with was that you could be making Kiddush when you say Lechadodi, and make Kiddush again when you say Mizmor Shiur Shabbat, and again you say V'Shamru, and again you say V'Chulu, and again you say Baruch Hashem Kiddush Shabbat, and not want to be Yotzei from any of those, even though you're doing the mitzvah, and only Yotzei the mitzvah when you get to, when you get home and make Kiddush on the wine, if that is your choice. That's where we ended up last time. Now we're going to talk about the morning Kiddush. The Gemara in Pesachim Daf Kuf Vav says, "Zachot Shabbat lekadsho, zachro al hayayin b'knisato. Ein li ela balayla b'yom minayin v'lomar zachot et yom haShabbat." So obviously, when we say Kiddush, Kiddush is always a relative thing, right? In other words, when I say, now I'm extending a Kedusha, the Kedusha I'm extending is something that's happening, it has to be something new. In other words, our whole lives should be lives of holiness, but some parts are holier than others, right? So Shabbat is a holier time than the rest of the week. So the relevant time in which to make Kiddush and identify the Kedusha that was extended should be at the moment where you pass from Chol to Kodesh, right? When you go from one state to the other, that would be the relevant time to make Kiddush. That's why there's a Chidush in the morning Kiddush. That's why Talmud Lomar Zachot Yom HaShabbat, emphasizing the Yom, that there's also significance to making Kiddush during the day. That's what the Shulchan Aruch quotes over here. Yesh Shulchan Aruch mitamutzat yefa u'mapa prusa kmo b'seudat halayla v'yivarech al hayayin bo p'rei gefen v'ho nikra Kiddusha Rava. Now, there's a very surprising Maharam Mirotenberg who says his Kiddush on the morning is Doraita. Maharam itam b'sof yamav shnei yamim tovim shel Rosh Hashanah Kiddush livnei bito Kiddusha Rabba mitam she'Kiddush have Doraita. Kiddush in the morning is Doraita. This is very surprising. You remember that we said that L'chor you say Kiddush Doraita by saying Baruch Hashem Kiddush Shabbat during davening. You don't have to make it. You don't even need Doraita. You don't even need wine. Again, we learned, look in the previous section, in the previous segment. I think I forgot to upload it, but I will. I'll neither upload it to YouTube. Yes, I just noticed when I was preparing the Shiur that I looked to see where we're up to, and I realized I forgot to upload it, so I'm sorry. I'll try to upload it right after this Shiur, tomorrow or whatever. But we said you could be outside the Kiddush Doraita by saying Baruch Hashem Kiddush Shabbat during davening. Maybe there's a chiyuv according to the Ran to make Kiddush on some kind of chefetz, but to say that you weren't yotzei right on was something you can eat, either wine or bread. But to say that the Kiddush in the morning is doraita is very surprising. Although we did say, according to the Shla, that it could be a kiyum of the mitzvah of Kiddush, right? We said there's the obligation to make Kiddush, which you fulfill. I guess the choice according to Chatam Sofer would be to make that Kiddush davka on the Kiddush wine you make in the evening. But any other recognition of Kedusha would be another kiyum of Zachot Shabbat lekadsho, just like Shammai was Mekayem Zachol 10 times a week, right? By buying the better fish and the better meat and the better vegetables, etc., right? As we saw in the Midrash. So the Ravid, all the Rishonim disagree with this. Maharam Rotenburg, the Ravid says, "K'lein Kiddush Yom b'knisato al hayayin, k'shedorshu ani balayla b'yom minayin, asmachta yidika Kiddush balayla k'tiv b'dichtiv et yom v'lo k'tiv beyom," which is a wonderful limud. You see, the Gemara says over here, "Zachor et yom Shabbat," to tell us there's Kiddush during the Yom too. The Ravid says this Gemara is clearly not pshat, because what does et yom Shabbat mean? It means the full day. Why? Because had the Torah meant to say that the Kiddush has to be done during the daytime, it would have said Zachor beyom Shabbat. When it says Zachor et yom Shabbat, that teaches us that that's the day you have to commemorate during that day sometime, that they have to add that Kedusha to. And therefore he says this can't be pshat. When it says Zachor et yom Shabbat, that can't be pshat. It must mean the day, and as we said, the time of transition from Friday to Shabbat, that's when, right, from Friday, which is a day of Chol, to the Kiddush of Shabbat, that's when you have to recognize that day. As you remember, the tour said, that's why you have to rush home after davening. I hope you all did that this last Shabbat, which was after a fast. You should be fasting on Shabbat. So you rushed home after davening, not because Chalila, because you were hungry or anything, just because you're not allowed to fast on Shabbos. Now, all right. The Ran analyzes this to see why is it said like this? So what is the point of this limud? If this isn't true, if the limud isn't true, so why does the Gemara say it? Hooray, during the evening, when we make Kiddush, we make two brachot, right? We say Bo'od Hashem Kadosh Shabbat, and we say Bo'od Pregafen, right? Why? Bo'od Pregafen, that's Birkat Ne'anin, and apart from that, we also need to make Kiddush. The Kiddush has to be done by saying Bo'od Hashem Kadosh Shabbat. But during the day, we only say Bo'od Pregafen. Yeah, psukim, but the psukim are clearly just a minhag. I mean, it's a good minhag, and we're all happy with that, but it's not a fulfillment of the Kiddush the way Anshe Knesset HaGedolah prescribed. Kiddush deoraita delaylahu, as we said, at the time of transition. Ela, two options. Number one, mishum de kavod yom adif mikvod layla, ru chachamim lasot bayom zecher lekiddush, dainu pregefen vetulo, shu atchalat kiddush layla, meaning we do a commemoration for the commemoration, right? We're doing a kiddush of sorts, right? It's not really kiddush, but it's kind of kiddush. I dare say, according to this option, the Shla would say, according to this option, as we said, the Shla would say this option is saying you're fulfilling the mitzvah of Kiddush as, right, the elective mitzvah of Kiddush, not the one you're obligated to do, right? The obligation was fulfilled in the evening, but still you could electively fulfill it again, and that you do by making Kiddush during the day. That's number one. Number two is more surprising, and you have to remember it because it's going to affect much of Unit 30. ועוד שלפי שאין אומרים שירה אלא על היין, כיוון שמברכים על היין בתחילה שלא כדרך שאר סעודות, הווה כאין שירה ושבח קדושתו של יום. So he says like this, you need to praise Shabbat. How do we praise Shabbat? We praise Shabbat, right? We praise Kadosh Baruch Hu for the Shabbat, we praise the Shabbat, whatever, right? I'm not going to go into that intricacy, but you understand the point. We do that by having the Seudah. Now, in order to make it clear that this Seudah is different from other Seudot, so if you start the Seudah and then you add wine to that Seudah, it would seem like you're just having fun. You have a day off, so you have, just like on other days, you have a day off, so you're going to have a nice meal. Oh, and if there's wine, you'll bring wine too. So you do differently. You start with the wine to make it clear that the Seudah isn't just a Seudah, it's a Seudah that has the essence of Shirah. Shira v'shevach l'kedushato shel yom. To show that that's the essence of that seudah, you kick it off with wine, and then you say B'or Pragef, and that's the kiddush. So the kiddush here is more of a is a kiyum of, I'd say, of kavod ועונג Shabbat, right? The karat al Shabbat oneg. It's a kiyum of that more than it is a kiyum of zechot yom Shabbat lekadsho, right? I dare say the first option the Ran says is a form of zechot yom Shabbat lekadsho. Right? We're trying to imitate what we do in the evening for Zahod and Shabbat Kacho. The second one has a lot more to do with the Karat al Shabbat Oneg. Right? You see what I'm saying? Right? It has a lot more to do with the oneg of Shabbat, and you have to mishabach the Shabbat. So the kavod, and the second one has a lot more to do with the kavod and oneg aspect, as opposed to the first one is a lot more to do with zachot yom Shabbat lekadsho. Right? See what the Maram Chalawa says. Ein ze kiddush mamash, shekvar nitkadesh yom pa'am achat, v'lo matzinu kiddush beit din l'layla v'lo yom. Ela shechachamim tiknu likbo seudato al hayayin. That sounds to me again. He's saying there's no kiddush during the day, right? According to the Tashbetz, it's definitely kiddush during the day. It's definitely kiddush. According to the Ravid, maybe also. According to the first option in the Ran, also, it's a form of kiddush. It's an imitation of kiddush. According to the second option in the Ran and the Maram Chalama, it's not kiddush at all. It's actually din oneg Shabbat, right? The point is the seudah. The point is v'karta Shabbat oneg, right? A lot more than it is zachot yom Shabbat lekadsho. Those seems to be the opinions here. In that case, why is it called Kiddush Rabbah? So we've mentioned in the past the way the Mekubalim tend to take things that start from the world of Nigle and relate them to the world of Nistar. There's a Nigle reason, for example, I like the example of Chazar Tashatz, right? Chazar Tashatz in the Gemara seems to be a technicality that not everyone knows how to daven, so someone needs to repeat it. And the Rambam in the Tshuva says, most people know how to daven, we also have Sidurim, so figure it out, but you never know, someone out there will miss out on davening if you don't have Chazar Tashatz, so we all need to do Chazar Tashatz just to make sure that happens. So from the Gemara to the Rambam to most Rishonim, you say Chazar Tashatz is a very technical need. And then you go to the Mekubalim and they say, no, Chazar Tashatz is actually a higher madrega than the actual davening, although, in parentheses, in the Rambam itself, it also sounds like there also seems to be the contradiction there, because the Rambam himself also says that the Ikar Tfilah B'tzibur is Chazar Tashatz, which is very surprising. But not going into all that. As we said, Kiddush during the day, according to the Ravid, maybe, definitely according to the Maharam, according to the first option in the Ran, is a form of Kiddush. According to the Maharam Chalawa and the second option in the Ran, it's not Kiddush at all. In that case, why is it called Kiddush Rabbah? So the Ran says in Achinami, I'm jumping to the Ran here, the Ran who said it isn't really Kiddush anyway, I'm jumping to the Ran over there, Kol Kiddush Rabbah lekinui lefi sheino ikar ki Kiddush Layla v'zutar shiurei. Right? What's the Aramaic word for someone who's blind? Saginaho, much light, right? Someone who can see a lot of light, right? We say it, we want to be politically correct. We don't want to say he doesn't see anything. We say he has much light, right? It's a nice way of saying we don't want to embarrass, we don't want to insult the morning Kiddush, so we don't say that's not really Kiddush. We say it's the greater Kiddush. We mean it isn't really Kiddush, but we phrase it in a nicer way. So right, this fits the Ran's opinion. The Ran says it isn't Kiddush at all. Maybe it's just the kiyum of V'karta Shabbat Oneg. Possibly it's a commemoration of Kiddush, right? But isn't the actual Kiddush itself. The Rimi Lunil is a bit more sympathetic, I'd say, towards the Kiddush, and says, Zochrehu al hayayin, shekadshou alav Kiddush Rabbah, v'karen leKiddush Rabbah mishum kvod Shabbat, af al gav delek hatosevet dvarim el habo perek gefen levado. And I think this connects to the first option in the Ran. The main kavod of Shabbat is supposed to be during the day, right? The more, if you need to choose, the poskim say, if you need to choose the better cut of meat, the better food, the whatever it is, you should choose it for the day, because Kavod Shabbat during the day is greater than Kavod Shabbat in the evening. So the Kiddush Rabbah is carried over from the Kavod Shabbat. But it isn't a greater Kiddush, because on the Kiddush scale, it's not so Kiddush, but on the Kavod Shabbat scale, it is greater. The Ramban sends us to the Mekubalim, במדרשו של רבי נחוניה בן הקנאי הזכירו עוד סוד גדול בזכור ושמור, ועל הכלל תהיה הזכירה ביום והשמירה בלילה. וזהו מאמר החכמים שאומרים בערב שבת בואי כלה בואו ונצא לקראת שבת מלכה קלה, ויקראו לברכת היום קידוש הרבה, שהוא הקידוש הגדול. ותבין זה, which usually means, if you read this only once, you probably didn't get it, right? That's whenever they say ותבין זה means, you probably missed what we're saying here. On this occasion, why did you miss what we're saying here? Because we're talking about some Kabbalic level that we probably didn't catch on the first time. So the Ramban is saying that the Kiddush during the day isn't really a fulfillment of, on the one hand, he very well knows that the Kiddush during the day isn't a fulfillment of the mitzvah of Zechod and Shabbat Kadsho proper, because that happened in the evening. But there's a greater Kiddush that happens during the day that has to do with some Kabbalic aspect, and that's how it became Kiddush Rabbah. I actually suspect that it started off, originally they started calling it Kiddush Rabbah because it wasn't really Kiddush, so they called it Kiddush Rabbah, like the Ran said, or like the Milunil said possibly. But eventually, but once it became Kiddush Rabbah, the Mekubalim said, there's no such thing that something happens in Am Yisrael stam. If they ended up calling, if Am Yisrael called this Kiddush Rabbah, it must mean there's some secret behind that. There must be some aspect of greater Kiddush that really is there. It can't be that we're all just being facetious by calling it Kiddush Rabbah. And therefore, there must be something a greater meaning. And then they go and look for the greater meaning and then they explain it. I don't personally understand it, but again, I just want to make it clear, I'm not being facetious either here. It seems clear and evident to me that that they really did find greater meaning to the Kiddush Rabbah, because Am Yisrael called it Kiddush Rabbah, they said there's something there. All of Am Yisrael calling it Kiddush Rabbah must mean there's something hidden there, and then they go and find the hidden meaning. So, as I said, I think just the interesting points about Kiddush Rabbah, I'll just sum this up. We said the Gemara says that just like there's a mitzvah during the evening, there's a mitzvah during the day. Tashbet says this is Doraita. Most Rishonim say it's not Doraita, but what is it? If not Doraita, is it actually Kiddush, as it sounds like the Ravid and the first option, the Ran? It's actually Kiddush, and this, I think, connects to the Rimi Lunil who says it's a four. No, sorry, the Rimi Lunil. I'm not sure connects to that. Sorry, take it back. A form of Kiddush, a second commemoration, which probably connects to the Ramban, who says it's another form of Zechod Yashav Kadsho in a higher sense, on a higher madrega that maybe you don't quite understand. The second option isn't really Kiddush at all. Second option, the Ran, Maran Chalal, isn't really Kiddush at all. It's part of Kavod Shabbat, which connects to possibly the Ran, who says we call it Kiddush, the greater Kiddush, because it isn't really Kiddush at all, but we want to be more politically correct. Or the Milunil says it's a greater Kiddush in the sense of Kavod Shabbat, not necessarily in the sense of Zechod Shabbat Kadsho.